when this guy
Well, they
should be.
never said if she hooked up with Kang, but I'm gonna assume so.
Yeah, man.
Like, I'm
And
not gay or
then
nothing, but yeah, I can see it.
they'll get us canceled. And then
Hey, Indigo made the beat.
welcome everyone. Here's Peak with yours truly, myself, James, and Mike. Mike, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. Today we'll be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. But before we get into all of that, it's been a minute since we've last spoken to each other. Actually, it's been a minute since we put out a podcast. For those of you who can see right now visually, it's only Mike and myself. Chris, our wonderful moderator, is on vacation, having a good time. He'll be back shortly. Keith, he's doing Keith things, monitoring his Knicks as the NBA season just had their All-Star and midway point. They're about to come back now full force. And then, of course, the queen of the podcast, Brookes, was not able to make it this evening. Plus, I'm pretty sure she did not see Ant-Man. So there goes that. So, Mike, how's everything going up in the north?
Cold as hell, but we're hanging in there. So
I hear you. Yeah, we're going through fluctuations of weather. 70 degrees one day, 20 another day. I feel like we're in a quantum realm, to be honest with you. That's what I really feel like, All right.
I'm waiting for Bill Murray to show up at the local restaurant here.
Oh, Jesus. We'll get to that. Oh, my God. Thanks for reminding me. I didn't have that planned. So on today's podcast, quick rundown. I'm doing something different because I know Chris has his own format. We're going to go over the movie Ant-Man Quantumania, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Introduction to the movie cast, brief synopsis. Then we're going to go about the expectations that Mike and I had going prior to seeing the movie. This is supposed to be the official kickoff of Phase 5. And then we're going to get into some of the key segments of the movie, starting with the special effects and cinematography. Then we'll forward into the acting and the cast, and then the plot, which is a big portion of the movie. And then we'll focus on some key characters. I know we'll talk about acting, but let's talk about the actual Marvel MCU characters themselves. And then we'll conclude with the post-credit scenes and overall what this means to Phase 5 moving forward. How about that, Mike? You good to go?
Sounds like a plan to me. Sounds
All
like
right,
more of a
let's
plan
do it.
than they had in Ant-Man 3.
Jesus. Ooh, this is our Phase 5 as well.
No, I'm not
all
talking
right.
about Kevin Feige and the director and the writer. I'm talking about the cast going through the movie because they didn't really have a plan in the movie, so they were kind of winging it a lot.
Oh my God.
So yeah,
Cassie and Hank. All right. So, quick synopsis of this movie. This film is the official kickoff to Phase 5 of the MCU. Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne return to continue their adventures as Ant-Man and the Wasp. Together with Hope's parents, Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, the family finds themselves exploring the quantum realm, interacting with strange new creatures and beings, and going on an adventure that will push them beyond the limits of what they thought was possible. Jonathan Majors plays Kang and plays a very pivotal role in the quantum realm as well as this movie overall. Director of this movie is Peyton Reed, who comes back to finish the trilogy. Cast is Paul Rudd, Evangelina Lilly, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer. Michelle Pfeiffer still doing it. Catherine Newton, who's playing the third rendition of Cassie Lang, and Jonathan Majors, who's heralded as the next Thanos. All right. So, Mike, what were your expectations coming into this movie from the trailers we've seen over the last year, and then articles we've read? What were you thinking or hoping and expecting to see?
so the trailers had me excited for one. Number two, Jonathan Majors had me excited for Kang. We got a little taste of him in Loki season 1 as He Who Remains. I thought he did an
in the
excellent
finale.
job, and I was like, I remember seeing him in what was the HBO
Lovecraft
show?
Country,
Yeah,
Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country, and he did a great job there. So I knew he was a great actor, and I knew he'd probably kill it as Kang, and he didn't
Hmm.
disappoint for sure. So that one got me excited.
Hmm.
And yeah, like I said in the trailers, they showed, I guess, a lot of exciting parts of the movie that you know
The best beats.
had me looking
Okay.
forward to it. And for me, I like the more sciencey side of Marvel as opposed to the magic side. So like while I enjoyed
Oh, interesting.
The multiverse Strange movie, I this one
Yeah.
had me more excited because it was more scientific. So
All right. Good point. Science part. I also agree with you. I like both for different reasons.
hmm
Pizza or hamburger doesn't matter. Although this felt a little more sci fantasy than science fiction, purely.
well,
But
yeah, because we're talking about subatomic universe, right? Like
yeah, we're talking, and then the physics themselves don't even work within the movie, which we'll get into in the plot part.
yeah,
But like you, I was also excited, right? I was also excited. We see the trailers. We talked about it. I was kind of interested to see what they can do with the quantum realm that would be different than what we saw in the Multiverse of Madness movie with Doctor Strange. And obviously Kang. We knew Kang was coming. And I made a joke about this was supposed to be the next Thanos, but that's how they were being marketed through Variety magazine, through all different platforms that the Disney machine, the Marvel machine was pushing out Kang, Kang, Kang. And we also know his character, not just in Loki season one finale, but was also tied into future projects of the MCU.
right.
So me being a huge fan like you, Jonathan Majors. By the way, shout out to Creed 3 coming out in a week or two. I had the same excitement that you did going into this movie. So that's good because
Mm.
I think some of us heard about the superhero fatigue, particularly with DC. There was no fatigue; it was just superhero fatality. But for Marvel, we had a fatigue because we were so used to Phase 3, and some of us didn't like the Disney Plus project. I know Chris is not here, but some of us weren't as thrilled with the Disney Plus project and movies as we'd hoped to be.
Right.
So I think our expectations were aligned. Now, that being said, and we talked about the sci-fi and the introducing the sci-fi into MCU, science fiction. Um, I think let's talk about the special effects and the way the movie actually was formatted. I got to see it in IMAX. I don't know what format we were able to see it
No, I didn't go in 3D or IMAX or anything. Just a regular 2D
in
screening.
Dolby.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
You've heard of this. You've seen this, right? You know what that is.
It is unavoidable. It is your destiny.
Is this not why you are here?
Do or do not. There is no choice.
Knock that shit off.
Because let me tell you what I was able to experience through IMAX. There are a lot of good scenes and moments, and we're doing a full spoiler FYI.
Yeah.
A lot of good scenes and moments once they got to this quantum realm that looked pretty spectacular on a large IMAX format and camera.
Mm.
And and I think they did it really well. They did it better than previous MCU movies, including Endgame and Infinity War. Only ones like and multiverse of madness, multitude of madness. Um, and I think, and I've heard the stories about how the Marvel VFX team, they're going through problems. They're stressed beyond belief, and too many work hours and all that good stuff. I think they deserve a compliment. I don't remember seeing them being nominated. Oh, because Ant-Man missed the window for the Oscars, so they were nominated for the upcoming Oscars
Right.
special effects. But I think I really like the special effects. I think some moments in the third act it was quirky and over the top and became a CGI mess, which is very standard for these MCU movies now. But the quiet scenes in the middle act of the movie, I thought was pretty astounding. What about you?
Yeah. I thought the effects were fine. I know we've been reading a lot about how the CGI teams are so overworked and things are falling through the cracks. And I didn't really notice it as much in this one. I kind of agree that the third act there was maybe a bit of a CGI mess. Like there was so much going on, it was hard to track who's who and what's going on. It reminded me of Attack of the Clones, the scene, the battle in the arena, and they had all these Jedi
Yes.
and all these droids. You don't know who's who except for
Yeah.
Mace Windu with the purple
Who's
saber, right? So, and he
true,
was
true,
smart
true,
to
true
request
indeed.
one so he could stand out. But yeah, it was kind of a bit messy.
Again, shout out to Peyton Reed real quick. Without getting into the plot and script writing, just focusing on cinematography and the VFX, I think they did a good job putting it together and making some parts of this that was fantastical feel believable visually.
Hmm.
All right, so that's enough of the kudos to that, Peyton Reed. The next part of this movie is the acting. Um,
Hmm.
and the actors that we mentioned. Angelina, keep chopping her name. I just did a
Eventually,
Chris. Evangeline Lilly. Oh my
yeah.
God, I know what Chris goes through. And Paul Rudd were they're in a title card. It's called Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Um, Before I get to Paul Rudd, he's a phenomenal actor as a comedian actor, but also sometimes he does the drama bits pretty well. I didn't think Evangelina Lilly really stood out in this movie, and it's a shame because she's on a title card, but to me, I feel like she's probably not even third billing because I would put Michelle Pfeiffer, Catherine Newton, and obviously Jonathan Majors above her as far as her acting um, acumen in this movie, and maybe it's more because of the role of the script. But even
Hmm.
when she was supposed to be a standout character, like the scene where she was rescuing Paul from his the probability matrix thing that they were going on. That's not in math. Um, it just felt blah. Like I looked at her, I was like blah. Like for most of the part, I think either she got the short end of the stick because of her role in the script, or she just didn't feel that committed to this movie, and I can't tell. Um, and then real quick before I let you take the baton, obviously Paul Rudd. This is his third movie in Ant-Man trilogy, and obviously he's been in Civil War. He's been in the Endgame.
Hmm.
Uh, I think he felt very comfortable in this role and was able to exert some new character traits which I didn't know. Like in the third act, when him and Kang were kind of going at it, like
Right.
Paul Rudd to me felt like, oh wow, he's really selling me his beliefs, and I felt some stakes. Like he was emoting where I felt like, okay, this dude really isn't just a full on comedian like Thor was in Love and Thunder. He's more
Oh
like,
God.
okay, I'm a serious guy who just happens to be extremely funny.
Yeah.
So I thought he did pretty good. But to me, and Michael Douglas, although I'm not going to put him above Paul Rudd in this role, I think he did a pretty decent job. You could tell at this point in his life, I don't know, what is he, 80 or 82? He's up there in age.
Right.
And imagine that he's doing movies like this where he's wearing goggles and a blazer and a scarf, and he's on the back of some freaking flying beast. Like, I mean, it is what it is. It's Michael Douglas. But to me, the two standout actors in this movie, and I won't say the standout characters, just the actors, and shout out to Catherine Newton, who did pretty decent too, is really Michelle Pfeiffer and Jonathan Majors. It should have been called Ant-Man and um,
Old
Hope's
Wasp.
mother. I forgot.
No,
Ant-Man and
60s.
Janet Van Dyne.
Yeah, well, it should have been
Yes,
Ant-Man and 60s Wasp. Something like that.
yes,
That's what I was just going to
yes.
say. Like,
Starring.
yeah, exactly. I'm with
So
you
go
pretty much.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you on all you've said there. So, yeah, shout out to Michelle Pfeiffer. Great job. Paul Rudd, great job. I love that. Yeah, every time we've seen him previously, there have been stakes for him, but they have never been Captain America Endgame, one on one against Thanos stakes until we saw him go up against Kang here. And then you see, yeah, Paul Rudd can do it if he needs to. He can do it. He can pull it off.
Yeah.
And so I was impressed with that. Of course, Jonathan Majors, like I said before, knocked it out of the park. Um,
Hmm.
Michael Douglas, he's fantastic. We've been watching this man for 40 years, right? I
Hmm.
think the
Hmm.
only difference in this one, it's not like he gave a terrible performance. I think he's still from that old school of everything is a practical set or location, and I would imagine 90% of this film was shot in a green screen, in a
Green screen somewhere in
in
Atlanta.
a
Yeah.
green room, and then so
Mhm.
he can't visualize the props, right? He can't visualize the scene, the props, because everything's just green around him. So maybe
Yeah.
that lessened his performance a bit. So, which is understandable
No, that's
because,
a
like I
great
said,
point.
he's been how long has he been doing this on location or on set with everything is built in front of him and he
Since
can see it. So
1980, 81. Yeah, he's been on
yeah,
for a while. And unfortunately, he stuck out as a sore thumb to me throughout the movie because he just looked like he was somewhere else reading his
right,
lines. Um,
yeah. It was
Yet,
almost like he
I,
wasn't sure where he should be looking or talking to,
yes,
or you know what I mean. So
yes, I noticed that. But regardless, I still put him above Evangeline Lilly. All right. So let's get to the crux of this movie. So
yeah.
far, I think we're pretty much on board with the special effects. Peyton Reed's direction of that aspect, the acting, it's been 50-50. Some actors brought it to the table, others, unfortunately, for whatever reason, weren't the same. But what really ties this movie together, for good or for bad, is the plot and the narrative. I'm going to give you a first shot. I mean, what did you think of the overall story? And again, full spoilers. Um, Again, we talked about expectations, what we saw in the trailers.
Hmm.
You and I both read some of the same trade articles about this. We're in a know. And then we see the movie, and we watch along, and then we're like, oh, okay. They went that way.
Right.
Okay. You get the floor.
Yeah. So from the trailers, you don't really see like you obviously they're gonna be in the quantum realm. You know they're gonna run into Kang, so it's a matter of how and why, right? So that was the only parts we didn't know. They filmed it.
Mhm.
They filled that part in during the film, obviously, and I thought it was fine. It was cool that I thought Cassie was kind of following in the footsteps of her dad as a mechanical engineer and working with Janet
Electrical
on
engineer.
quantum
Electrical
realm.
engineer. No, come on. Electrical engineer. Electrical engineer.
What
Come on. This is my. He was an electrical engineer, not a mechanical engineer.
was he electrical? Sorry, my bad. I thought he was a mechanical
As
engineer.
a
Why did I?
as
Oh,
somebody in a similar trade, and my
okay.
brothers out there, mechanical engineers who watch the show,
Yeah.
Scott, all you guys, he was an electrical engineer. Okay,
Okay. Okay. So yeah, following in kind of that, and again with the
that's a
science
cold
stuff.
open right there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Um. So it was just weird to me. Yeah, like obviously she's messing around with the quantum realm. They get sucked in. Blah blah blah. And then Janet knowing Kang. The one thing that kind of bugged me though, like when Janet was like, "I didn't tell you about Kang because I wanted to protect you." Like from what? If nobody, that kind of didn't make sense to me. Like, there's no reason why you couldn't have said, "Yo, there's this badass in the quantum realm we need to stay away from." You know what I mean? But
Hmm. Hmm.
whatever. Moving on. So I was kind of okay with the story for the most part. I love that how the ants evolved as well. That was a cool, interesting aspect. I don't know if the fight scene
That
worked
felt
for
like
me and stuff.
one of those poorly M Night Shyamalan twists. But yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
right.
Eric and I kind of rolled our eyes together when we saw that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think it worked for me though. I was okay with it because it is an Ant Man movie. You can't. How are you gonna not have the ants? Right? The ants
Have ants.
are that
Yeah.
character. They're that. What do you call it? I don't know what kind of character you call it. In the background, they have to be part of the movie. So it worked for
Yeah.
me. And then again with the final confrontation with Kang and Ant Man, that worked for me as well. Obviously,
Yes.
you know there weren't so like you think here's so one of the issues I have with Marvel is there aren't really stakes anymore since Endgame or Infinity War because
Say it. Say it.
because
Yep.
at the end Wasp and Ant-Man got stuck, but 5 minutes later they got rescued because Cassie reopened the portal and boom, they're home, right?
Pause there for a second. I did
Mm-hmm.
read they did original test screenings, original shoots where he was trapped. Him and Hope
Mm.
were trapped,
Okay.
and that's how they kind of ended that movie. But I guess it didn't do well in test screenings, so they decided to flip it. And yeah, that's why it looks kind of jerky. Like you think that he's done, and all of a sudden the portal opens and he's back. They
Yeah.
reshot that.
Yeah. So
But I agree
I
with
don't
you.
know.
That would have been a better ending.
Yeah, probably. I don't know how else they could have done it, but it's what we got. Um, Overall, the story wise was, well, not even. I won't say story wise was better. The script was way better than what we got with Thor 4. So, you know,
That's a low benchmark, my friend. But
yeah.
since it is, yeah, it's a low benchmark. So my take on this, you hit a lot of the same things that I was going to bring up. With the fact that, I mean, on paper the story seemed to have been okay, but I think the execution somehow really it didn't flourish. It didn't flourish for me because my brain was always, and again, this is a superhero movie with funky sci-fi. Yet nothing made sense to me from the moment that we found out that Cassie was working in a secret project that no one knew about, only Hank. And then Janet kept the secret since she
Hmm.
came back from Ant-Man and the Wasp. You have to imagine it's been 2 years post Blip or something like that. I don't remember anymore the math, give or take. So for those 2 years, nothing was ever brought that she had fidelities within the quantum, not just one. I'm pretty sure she hooked up with Bill Murray and Anna Kang, but whatever. Women's got
Well,
to
they
do.
never said if she hooked up with
Um,
Kang, but I'm gonna assume so.
yeah, man.
Like, I'm
And
not gay or
then
nothing, but yeah, I can see it.
they'll get us canceled. And then the quantum realm itself. Although I was praising the some of the sci-fi VFX, I had to poo-poo the concept of the quantum realm because to me it felt like another Star Wars planet. Like you brought up, good point. You brought up earlier about
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones. I got the feeling that the people in the community there was like a planet. It's not a realm. Like when we first get introduced to the quantum realm, and a little bit in Ant-Man 2, yes, to get what's her name out, to get Janet out, and then later on you see parts of it through Endgame when they're traveling to get to the different. I'm like, I'm expecting something more supremely fantastic, like the Phantom Zone, where you got pockets of terra forma and
Hmm.
like weird lights of flash and something looks like the Living Tribunal, and they have to navigate this
Yeah.
this dimension, right? To me, it looked like it was like Lucasfilms, Tatooine X or whatever,
So
like another planet from a Star Wars movie.
yeah, the way I took it was this section of the quantum realm where Kang was and all those people were is like, yeah, one planet, but then you had, I'm assuming there's another planet where the TVA is in the quantum realm, if they're in the quantum realm at all. Like, we still don't know that for a fact. And then there was the areas where they used to travel through time, those portals and stuff is a different section. So it's kind of its own galaxy, its own universe with different planets. And this was the section where they were, where Kang was, right? So um,
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, maybe we'll be expanding. Who knows if we'll be going back to the quantum realm at all? Who knows in the Fantastic Four? Who knows what?
Yeah,
Right?
and that's the part. This is one of the rare instances where I would have said some more exposition would have helped.
Right.
Usually I don't ask for it, but in this case, yeah, I think someone should have explained, someone should have given us a quick little info dump on where exactly are they, as opposed to maybe it should have been Janet because she's probably the most versed in that stuff. But it
Yeah.
let me like seeing all these different creatures that they had remind me also of future an episode of Futurama. Like we get the weird looking beings like the
Aw.
goo guy and the dude with the microscope head, which Eric was sad he got killed. Spoiler there.
So what I'm
Yeah,
hoping
it
is,
just
though,
felt.
what I'm hoping is, for Loki season 2, is that they are in the quantum realm there, and the quantum realm gets explained a lot better by the TVA folks. I'm hoping they do that at least. So we'll see,
I hope
right?
so. You remember in Ant-Man 2 when they're traveling in there, they needed oxygen masks. Yet in this movie, it was like perfect 72% nitrogen, 28% oxygen, and whatever. It's
Yeah, I
like,
mean, if we
oh,
want to get all sciencey about it, they're shrinking down to subatomic levels, and then so how are they breathing oxygen particles that are bigger than them, and
yeah.
all
And
kinds
how
of
they're
stuff.
still able to shrink how they're still able to shrink even further within the subatomic world.
That's one thing that bugged me
Become,
because when
yeah,
they went there and then he shrunk down
no pun
again, I was like,
intended.
how small are you getting? You know what I mean?
I'm kidding. Yes. Okay, but that's just the outskirts. Like we're talking about, this is like the
Yeah,
salad and asparagus. We didn't even get the meat and potatoes yet.
right.
Let's talk about Kang and his mission. All right, so obviously we realized Janet had a tryst with him at some point. Betrayed him, left him stranded in the quantum realm when she was rescued at the end of Ant-Man 2. And then now she's fearful because she keeps going around trying to be basic with everyone that she meets because she apparently knows Kang. And he's, you don't want to meet him. We keep getting this foreboding thing about Kang, right? And we finally
Right.
meet Kang. He gives us a great little monologue while he has Cassie and Scott hostage that he needs their help. And I'm like, no, I think he needs Janet's help, right? Like, he doesn't need Paul Rudd's help, But somehow we go along, and his mission is to find his original quantum drive, right? But yet, in him finding the quantum drive, he gets it. He still goes on with his plan, but then he's building an army, very Rise of Skywalker-ish, out of nowhere, which is Rise. And then, like, how are they all going to get to this ship with him? Like, there's a lot of things. My brain started, like, breaking apart. I'm like, did you really need Paul Rudd for all this? Like, what is your end goal? And why do the villain trope of just having Janet around so she can witness your triumph after she betrayed? Because I felt like he was going to kill her on sight
Hmm.
because of that.
That's
He
what I
really
thought
needed
too.
Paul
Right.
Rudd. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden she gets captured. He's parading her as like, yeah, now you get to witness. He's doing the monologue. The villain's
Yeah.
like, before I kill you, this is my master plan. And I'm like,
Hmm.
why are you doing that? Because obviously it works against them. And ultimately, she helps free. And I'm like, oh man, there's so many holes in this story. But I'm captivated by certain characters acting. Again, the props to the VFX, the props to the casting, but the
Yeah.
plot, I cannot applaud the plot. Any last things about the story before we get to some key character elements I want to focus on?
No, I think we covered it all. I mean, yeah, I'm with you there also with some of the plot holes, but it's I don't know what like we haven't even talked about Modoc, you know, and so
We'll get to that. That's key characters. I
yeah,
have a
so
list.
and
Okay. All
that
right.
whole
So
storyline,
perfect,
right?
perfect segue. Key
Yeah.
characters. We talked about Scott, Hank, and Janet.
Mm,
I purposely did not get into detail with Cassie and Modoc for a couple of reasons. That's a tertiary character. But let's start with Cassie. Um,
okay.
I think the way the movie was written, she was kind of front and center along with Paul Rudd Scott because of the dynamics of father and daughter and how Kang was using that leverage to get Paul to do what he. And it also Paul's driving plot device was Kurt, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't Janet. It wasn't anyone else. It wasn't Kang. He was doing what he needed to do for Cassie, right? Okay. Cassie reciprocally, however, felt like, and I mentioned this in our thread, how Marvel now, since Phase 3, they've given us all these quirky teenagers that just figure things out and no stakes and woo, I'm gonna like what's her name? From Hawkeye. She just learned how to after
Kate Bishop.
was there even a
Yeah.
montage? Yeah, she just
Yeah.
yeah, Kate Bishop. Started flicking arrows and doing tricks and all this wazoo stuff. Riri Williams and Black Panther. All of a sudden, you just figure out combat. So she figured out all the because Scott had a montage in the first Ant-Man movie where
Yeah.
Hope
Training.
is showing how to do a punch, all that stuff. Yeah, training, right? This movie, no such thing. She just magically learned how to do everything. I don't want to say Mary Sue. I know that could be viewed as toxic, but I think her character was a disservice to the part of the plot of the movie too. That's where I had some of my major issues with this plot. Unfortunately, it was her. Like she created this quantum device that she was signaling in that tracked them all, and then
Hmm.
somehow she learned how to use not only learn how to use she had a suit. I know she had a suit. The audience found out at the same time as Paul Rudd's character Scott found out, and then she learned how to be big, which took Scott 2 movies to learn how to do
Yeah.
the giant form. So and then she turns Modoc, and we'll get to Modoc. She conversed this dude that was, you could tell he had like a vengeance. He was like Kill Bill. He had a list. Ant Man, Cassie, and she somehow
Uh-huh.
gave him like the freaking what's his name, the keynote speech from Andor that motivated him to turn against Kang. And I'm sitting there
Right.
like, what can't this woman do? This young woman, what can't she do? So I really poo-pooed her character. And then I mentioned Modoc. I think Modoc. You and I both love the animated or puppetized. I don't know what
Yeah,
form that
Patton
is.
Oswalt
Uh,
animated one.
Yeah, Patton Oswalt. Is it animated or like puppets, kind of
No,
like a
it's
robot
animated.
chicken?
It's
It's
animated. Yeah.
animated. Oh man. Oh my god. You could tell I was mostly intoxicated watching that show. Um, yes, Modoc's character. That was a big twist, by the way. Dan Cross, who was played by his name escapes me, but he also played in Billions, a show on HBO. He comes
Uh,
back to the first movie.
yeah.
For those of you who remember, thanks, Mike. For those of you who remember, at the end of the first movie, they tricked him into getting miniaturized, and eventually we thought he died. But surprise, surprise, he actually went into the quantum realm, and this was supposed to be like a version of when we see Red Skull in Infinity War. Like, oh, we thought he died, that horrible death. No, he's back in a different form. So yes, Modoc, Dan Cross was back into the Modoc form. Um, to me, this felt like watching a Disney animated movie at that part. Like when you see his butt cheeks floating, and I'm like, I can't take any of this stuff seriously. Yes, I know Modoc itself isn't meant to be a serious character,
Right.
but it was just a timing of his introduction and his reveal. To me, I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
So for
go
me,
ahead, go ahead.
when we saw the trailer and we saw Modoc, I was excited because I like Modoc. He's funny.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cool character from. He's a cool, funny character. I love the animated show, and I was like, okay, cool.
So
We're
did
gonna
I.
see Modoc, and then the rumors started going about how it was gonna be Yellow Jacket, and I was like, no, I hope not. I want it to be the original Modoc. Somehow he got stuck in the
Mm-hmm.
quantum realm, but turned out to be Yellow Jacket. And I'm gonna say though, I wasn't really disappointed that much by it. Like we knew he got shrunk down and he got
Not even his
deformed.
death. Not even his death. Not even them killing off his
Oh
character.
yeah, no, that's different. But I mean, for the most part, the making Darren Cross Modoc, I wasn't as let down as I thought I was going to be. Changing the character, you know what I mean, from the
Mm-hmm.
original Modoc character and his origin. So it wasn't as bad. It was, yeah, the whole thing at the end, it was funny, but it was kind of like, yeah, a little bit of a letdown too. Like he had some really funny lines, like "At least I died an Avenger." That was hilarious to me. And you were like my
Yeah, I'm not
brother.
gonna lie. I smiled. I did smile, but in the
Yeah.
context of what was happening, I was confused. And I think Marvel's getting. I mean, the Marvel formula used to be introduce a character, you like the character, you throw some comedic bits, then the stakes happens, and then maybe one or
Mm,
two jokes, and then there's like a closure where you kind of like, oh, you feel a little bright at the end, right? This
yeah.
movie, I think, and this is again mostly the plot. I can't blame the actors here. Like they were throwing you these little comedic bits at the wrong instances, where you're supposed to take this seriously. Because even Paul Rudd's character was at the end, he was like, "Wow, it's been a long day." Because after his death scene, Modoc's death
Hmm.
scene, and yeah, some people in my audience was laughing, and then we come to like, okay, he's died, and a little red line comes across, like
Yeah.
there's health status, and
Right.
then like he goes, yeah, it's kind of been a long day, which to me defeats everything that happened in that entire scene, and I was confused.
Yeah. So
And I had
I
that issue
this
with,
is this is the problem I had with Thor 4. It's not
oh,
knowing when things need to be serious and when they need to be lighthearted, right? So those
yeah,
scenes,
imagine in Spider-Man. Sorry, I was gonna say, imagine
yeah.
in Spider-Man, No Way Home, that after Aunt May died, what's his name? His buddy's name comes up to him, hey man, you okay? You need a hug? You need some cereal, man? Like something quirky like that. You sitting there like, no, this is not the right time.
Exactly,
This is
yeah.
a serious moment.
See,
Let it breathe,
they did that
and
right.
then yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
But with this
But
one,
yeah, Thor four.
it's now they've it's almost like they're at the point where they're like, yeah, well, we have to throw a joke in here now. Otherwise, but
It's
you
not
don't
meant
have
to. Yeah.
to. You don't have to. You can have your serious moment and just let it be serious. I've been saying this since, oh my God, for years now. I've been saying this. Like, just let a serious moment be
Yeah.
serious for a minute. You don't have to do it. And to
So
what Taika did with Thor 4, like it was just beyond. So at least they toned it down for this one. Like this one,
they did.
and
They
like
did.
Wakanda Forever, definitely. Even though it had its funny
Oh yeah,
moments,
definitely.
like can you
That was
imagine if they
definitely
were cracking jokes at the funeral part? Like, oh my God, that would have been the end for me. I would have been
yeah.
like, no, I'm done.
That would have been the end of the MCU right there.
So,
Yeah. All right. So I was gonna get into like the tertiary characters. I don't think we need to. Like the whole Freedom Revolution team reminded me of Thor 3 Ragnarok, where Korg
yeah.
had the whole "Let's revolution." In fact, I think you said revolution. Yeah, they actually yelled out revolution, and then they had the Futurama character who had no holes, and then they had the microscope. Well, although it was kind of badass, microscope dude got killed by Kang, which again, talk about the pacing. I'm thinking Kang now is about to wreck shop, and he's unleashing his powers. And then Michael Douglas, who looks like he's still acting in a different set, reveals to us that he's been in contact with the ants who spent 1,000 years stuck somewhere in the quantum realm
Right.
or dilated, whatever. He gave us some hokey science. Like
Yeah.
they were forced to dilate time and blah blah blah. So now these are super ants and they're
Hmm.
enormous size. And they're able to defeat Kang. I'm sitting there watching this moment. This is the moment where I realized, yeah man, this Kang ain't Thanos. Not even close. Eric was like, what would have
Well, not
Thanos
this
done with
gang.
no stones?
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric was like, what we think Thanos would have done? No stones in that situation, not be there. That's what he would have done. Like this makes no sense.
Yeah.
He already would have traveled. He would have, as soon as he got that multiverse, that quantum engine, he'd have been out.
I'm out.
But
Yeah.
anyhow, yeah. All right,
Yeah.
all right. We went
So I
pretty
mean,
far into this.
we did
Key
see the
characters.
Council
Go
of
ahead.
Kangs, and
That's
so
that's for the
there's a
post
lot of
credits, but
theories
yeah.
happening here that he's not that this Kang didn't die when he got sucked into the drive, that he's just stuck in there, and he'll evolve and become even more powerful if he gets out. Also, with the Council of Kangs in the Arena of Kangs, this wasn't the actual big bad we'll see in the Kang Dynasty movie. So I don't know where they're going with it.
Mike, I've
Um,
heard the same thing, but
yeah,
if you're telling me from watching Loki finale and watching this movie, I don't believe that theory that this wasn't a big bad Kang because he was exiled by the Council of Kang because he was
yeah,
over the top. Then after he was killed, they're like, oh, now we need to bring in everyone because they're starting to touch the multiverse. And I'm like, so now you're telling me the council is the really big bad because you just killed the Kang that I thought the He Who Remains was talking about
right.
as the big guys coming up. He's gone. Or so we think. So it's like, what are we doing? Like, you're confusing even the most like the hardcore MCU fans and Marvel Comics fans. If we're confused, imagine the casual audience. Like, wait, what? Like, why does this kid look like a scroll? And what? Like, all
Yeah, because
right,
you and I will watch it and go, oh, there's Rama Tut, and there's such
yes,
and such.
Immortus,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but
So, all
these
right,
people who have never seen Kang before, yeah, I'm sure. I imagine it was very confusing for them. And then, so coming up with the next movies, like Guardians 3 is next. I don't think we're gonna get anything about Kang at all in that one.
no,
And
and then
and
Marvels,
then
I
the
think Marvels,
Marvels, what are they going to do with the Marvels in November? Are we going to see Kang at all in that one? I don't think so either.
probably not, probably
Yeah,
not,
so
probably
I
not,
don't know
unless it's post credit
how it
scene,
leads. You know,
unless they give us
because
post credit scenes like they were doing with
because
Thanos and
yeah, because
Infinity
with the
Saga.
Infinity Saga, at least in every movie where we're looking at where we're chasing a stone, right? So with the Guardians, they had the Power Stone. Thor had the Reality Stone, and such, right? So at least for every saga, every trilogy or so, we were dealing with a different stone that culminated in the end with Thanos getting all the stones, right? So I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
the quest is here for Kang. You see what I mean?
Well, it says has control of the multiverse. So other than actually, let's think about it. The multiverse so far. We've had Loki, we've had Doctor Strange, we have
Hmm.
Spider Man, but it's nothing compared to the multiverse. It's not a it's not a constant. It's not like okay, we understand each new iteration. We're more confused, right? Like watching this version, I'm more confused.
Right.
Like, what happened to the incursion we heard from Doctor Strange? The incursion. You can't let the incursion. I'm like, we know what it is, but comic book readers know what the incursion is. But if you're a movie watch, you're like, wait, that doesn't match up with what we saw in He Who Remains because they're
Yeah.
splitting. That doesn't match up with Doctor Strange because he's closing it. That doesn't match up with Spider. I mean, it's like, what's happening here? All right, I think we beat this segment to death.
So then the question
So
is, in the Marvels movie, are we going to be jumping multiverses as well? Right? Because in the Miss Marvel show, I think her and Carol Danvers switch bodies at the end. Remember, or
switch
something like
bodies,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. Who
they
knows?
did, they did.
So
She went into the ring, the bands, and then Captain Marvel came out.
yeah,
And that movie's also going to feature what's her name, Photon. Yeah.
Photon. Right.
So I think that's probably more to understand the origin of their powers more so than a multiverse. That's what I think. I have no information that's been leaked to me. I think that's probably more the origin story of their powers and how they are, what
Yeah.
they are, and how it connects the three of them. I don't think we're going to be going through different universes, different versions of them. All right,
Okay.
so this was the beginning commencement of Phase 5. So if Chris was here, he'd read some numbers. I'm not going to get into most of it, but for the most part, two things stick out:
Hmm.
reviews and box office. Right? They don't match. Rotten Tomatoes, which is not a reliable source for most people,
Yeah.
but it's about 47% for this movie, which is only higher than Eternals for Rotten Tomatoes. Um, it says a lot. However, this movie, from my information here, $120 million U.S. President's Day weekend, 240 worldwide total.
Hmm.
Outperformed the previous Ant-Man movies, but rated lower than Ant-Man
Yeah.
1 and
I
Ant-Man
believe
2.
that. That makes sense.
So we mentioned,
Although
we started to talk
honestly,
about.
I enjoyed this one better than I did the second movie. Right, with Ghost. So
I agree. Hell yeah, hell yeah. That movie is among the lowest tiers,
yeah.
and I think both our grades will kind of, exonerate this movie from being that far below.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of puzzled that the audience pocketbooks and the reviews are not lined up. Usually they are. The movie's
Yeah.
underperforming. It's at terrible grades, like Black Adam did not do well and underperform. I
Uh-huh.
can't recall a movie that, other than Captain Marvel, but that's a lot that's happening in that movie. I'm not going to get into. Chris is not here. That did $1 billion yet had very low, zone dichotomy there. So again, we talked about Guardians being the next movie and Marvel's being the next movie, but I just want to end this segment by saying that I think that we got through Phase 4, the hurl of Phase 4, both the movies and the Disney shows, and the three of them, most of us on Heroes Peak here had different opinions about where's MCU going, whether there's a fatigue, whether we're fearful. Phase 5, this movie was the official start of Phase 5. I'm still cautiously optimistic that the MCU will kind of pivot and rebound near the tail end of MCU Phase 5. But I have to be honest, I don't think anything short of the X-Men will get us back to the Infinity Saga peaks. Like I think for the next couple of phases, even when we get the Kang Dynasty,
Hmm.
um, everything that's being forecasted for Phase 5 and 6, even Fantastic Four, I don't think we're going to reach the highs that we had in the Infinity Saga until the X-Men are introduced. So, what are your
Yeah.
takes on
Yeah.
Phase
So
5 and onwards?
yeah, I kind of I agree. I'm excited for the X-Men. Hopefully they do it well. I'm excited for Fantastic Four. We need to finally we can, if we can get a decent Fantastic Four, I'll be happy. My beef though in general with MCU versus the comic books is, you can finish the Infinity Saga in the comics and you still have an Iron Man, you still have a Captain America, you still have a Thor. But these guys don't Robert Downey doesn't want to play Iron Man anymore. Chris Evans doesn't want to play Captain America. So in the MCU now, we can't have like I get that Sam Wilson's Captain America now, and Riri's going to be, Ironheart, but it's not the
Ironheart, yeah,
same. You know what I mean? We
yeah.
we we no longer have those core guys that we were excited for during the Infinity Saga, saying to go up against Kang. And if anybody has seen the animated shows, they actually had some decent animated shows
Hell
against
yeah,
Kang with Iron Man and
hell
Hulk
yeah.
and Cap and all of them going up against him. And I would love to see that in the movies as well. And you know, to me, even if you have to, okay, you keep Tony Stark, but yeah, it's not Robert Downey Jr. It's somebody else playing him. Worst comes to worst, but at least we have Tony Stark in the MCU still. I don't know.
That's a problem that I don't think Marvel really thought of when they came and they started this whole MCU studios and they did well in Phase One. I don't think they looked forward enough to say, hey, at some point these actors are going to age out, like,
Yeah,
and then what?
right.
We'll have to kill off the characters.
Because they don't
Like,
age in the comic
yeah,
books, so it doesn't matter, right?
no, they
You're
don't.
doing it
Yeah,
for
they can
40
go
years.
60,
Yeah,
70, 90 years in some
yeah.
cases with these characters, and
Now,
you
if
can't do
they
that in real
treated
life.
Tony Stark like a James Bond character, where it doesn't matter who's playing him, right? But because it was RDJ, he's iconic, right? Like nobody's gonna be happy with
Is
somebody else in the suit. So
I like to think moving forward. That's something that Kevin Feige and the intelligentsia should be thinking about when you're creating these new characters moving forward. Let's say the X-Men. You want to cast young, but you want to make stories where you can easily swap, like Doctor Who. Like you can
hmm
easily swap out these characters with different actors, and it within the same timeline, right? Not a multiverse version. No, like it's the same character. We as an audience knows a different actor portraying the character, but in
yeah,
the universe, it's still the same. You know,
yeah. It's not like they haven't
um,
done it before, like with Rhodey, right? And some other people who got swapped out.
Cassie
So
Lang.
yeah, exactly.
Hello.
So somehow they're okay when
um,
it's a minor character, but
yeah. All right, real
oh well.
quick. Post credits. We talked about the Kang post credit scene. What was the other one? There was two.
Oh, they Loki season
Right,
two.
the Count of the Kangs, Loki season two. So yeah, quick research, half-assed internet research on my part.
Mm-hmm.
What stuck out to me immediately was the name Victor Timely. Timely per se because Timely Comics was the predecessor to Marvel Comics. For those of you who don't know,
I didn't know
um,
that. Okay.
yes, Timely Comics. So when I did some more research, I realized that the character does exist in the comic books
Mm-hmm.
and is the original Kang in the timeline of Kang. 1820, whatever. But he was the original king. This is where it's a whole closed loop because he
Mm-hmm.
traveled back with the future tech to lay in place the chess moves to get him to become the final king in the end.
Right.
And
Yeah.
somehow that king is a descendant of Doctor Doom.
Hmm.
Yeah, dude, it gets really weird in the comic books
Yeah,
because
I'm gonna have
again,
to read
the
up on
comic
that
books.
too. Yeah.
So
But yeah,
yeah, that's
apparently
interesting too.
he started a town in Wisconsin, Timely, Wisconsin,
hmm
and
The
it's gonna
thing
be
is, the character unfortunately was not unfortunately. I just have to say this: the character was white in the comics, and obviously Jonathan Majors is an African American. I would find it very unlikely that he could come in 1820 and just like open up a town in Wisconsin as a black man in America
right.
in 1820. But
Yeah.
that goes without saying.
Yeah,
All right.
they
One
probably won't
last.
do that in this version though. So
No, I doubt it.
yeah.
So right now we talked about the box office real quick before we get the outro. I think this movie's pretty much solid as far as it's going to make its money back and then
Yeah.
some. I think Cocaine Bear is going to challenge it this weekend. Coming out, it's going to give us run for its money. Coke
hmm
run for its money. But I don't see this movie getting toppled for a while because people are going to want to see it just to hear whether the reviews are right or wrong.
Yeah.
And the casual audience, that is, obviously Marvel and comic fans are going to watch it regardless. Any last takes, Mike?
No, like I
Any last
said,
takes on the movie?
I Yeah, I went in after I saw some initial reviews, non-spoiler reviews. They were kind of trashing it. It was kind of worrying a bit, but overall, I wasn't disappointed. I really did enjoy this movie compared to since Thor 4 was a real letdown for me. So I'm glad this kind of
The worst
brought it
movie
back.
since
Yeah, so this one kind of brought it back up for me. So happy about that.
it did, and I still. All right, so let's give it a grade. You want to give it a grade, or you want to wait till you get
No,
Chris?
I'll
Let's
give it a
let's give it
grade.
a grade. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Initially, I was thinking B plus, but I'm gonna take it down a little bit to a B. Because I've had that time to digest, right? So I think I'm gonna go with a
Mm-hmm.
B on this one. Yeah.
Solid
Mm.
B, solid B. Um, I'm sure most of our hero peakers saw my TikTok where I was so enthused and excited coming out the movie. I gave it a grade of B minus, the same as my son Eric. Since then, I had a lot more to think about, and I've downgraded my grade from B minus to C plus. I think after some more introspective and research preparing for this pod, I'm actually going to downgrade a little bit further to a solid C because I found the plot, as you mentioned earlier, there's so much holes in the plot, even for a superhero movie that just cannot give it. I definitely could give it the B minus that I had in the movie theater because I was wrapped in the euphoria watching it with
Yeah.
people. Um, so yeah, I think my final grade at this moment, at my final grade of this movie would be a C. I'm
Yeah,
sticking
I
that.
think I
All
would
right,
be with you if it wasn't for Paul Rudd and Jonathan Majors. I think they saved the grade for me on this one. So
they
the
did. The
performances
last
really,
15 minutes,
yeah, they
definitely.
really pulled it up. So they did it for me there.
All right, Mike, where can our fans follow us to get more insight on Marvel and other
Yeah.
stuff?
So as usual, hopefully we'll be. We haven't published in a while. We're back. So you can catch us on the internet at Heroes Peak at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell to get notifications. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought of Ant-Man and what you think of the upcoming Loki and anything else you want to talk about Marvel. Let us know.
Yeah, please leave a comment. It really helps our both our channels and just us to engage because we're pretty sure some of you guys are going to be like, "Oh, this was the worst movie ever," and some of you are like, "Wow, I don't know what's wrong with these stuck-up guys. I thought it was a pretty solid movie." Leave
Yeah.
comments. Let's engage with you guys and let's change. Let's get some feedback going. Please leave a comment. Do not text me, some of you guys. Please leave a comment.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Alrighty. Have a good night,
See you
everyone.
next time,
Hey,
folks.
Indigo made the beat.